Welcome to F1 Forecast again. My name's Luke. First off the bat, I got several comments. Why haven't I made a video? The race has already happened. Where are you, Luke? I apologize in advance. I've been pretty busy at work. Started a couple new projects, and I'm also preparing myself for a big trade show that I'll be attending, representing the business I work for. So. Just been a little heavily loaded lately, and haven't had. I've had the time, but I haven't made the time. So I'm not giving you any excuses. It's been all on me, and I do apologize. So let's kind of transition to the next thing. So we'll talk quickly about last race to begin with. Now, I wasn't at all surprised by the last race, to be honest. When we talked about the cars in the last episode and what I thought it was going to be, I was pretty much spot on, not bragging at all, just making an analysis here. They have more downforce, they're faster in the corners, we all knew that was going to happen. More mechanical grip, more, like I said, downforce. The aero is just a whole other ball game this year. It's pretty crazy watching some of the onboard footage, watching those cars pull, as many G's as a fighter pilot does is pretty amazing, and it really shows how good a shape those guys are to be able to do that potentially thousands of times a race. They're doing 60 something laps, so that's amazing. Those guys are in amazing shape, and they give them all the credit in the world to be able to do that day every race and be totally fine. Now, in terms of the event, I was a bit bored during the race. Being here in the Midwest in the United States, I'm in Central Time, so I have to stay up late to watch the races. So I stayed up. I actually fell asleep and was about 20 laps into the race when I woke back up and pressed rewind. So the event leading up to the race was so boring, and it's not Liberty Media yet because they haven't had the time. They haven't been able to go through and change any of the copyrights and the licensing and all of the way that they packet those media rights to the different providers. I'm on PlayStation View, so I'm getting CNBC, I believe it is the one providing the coverage, and I was never really pleased with the coverage to begin with. It can't hold up anything compared to Sky F1. I just always loved the commentary coming from actual F1 drivers. It's a little more respectable. It's not just it's kind of like, and no offense to fantasy sports at all over here, but here in the States, fantasy football is just ginormous. And I always, I played football in high school. And it was funny, I always looked at some of the analysts and thought to myself, you don't look like you played any sports, let alone, know what it's like to actually do things like that. It seems like a lot of those commentators were just very well spoken statistical analysts, if you want to put it that way. And that to me always was kind of boring. And not as respectable. Sky F1 has a lot of those pundits or commentators are ex-F1 drivers. Maybe not champions, but it doesn't matter. When you're at that level, you know what you're talking about. So kind of was bored of that. I actually was streaming the audio of the Sky F1 coverage and listening to that over the video. But anyway, I was kind of disappointed with the coverage. We spoke about this a little bit last episode. Gosh, guys, you want to broaden your audience, but you're making this like a pay-per-view event. That's not what it is. This should be a televised sport. You got to get it out there. Maybe, once you have a couple million viewers on the leash, in addition to what we have, then maybe you can think about changing the analysis. But for goodness sakes, guys, your viewing is so low, and you sit here and you ostracize people out of being able to watch the full coverage. It's just not a good structure. So kind of brushing past that, let's talk about the actual race. So like I said, I wasn't surprised at all. Valtteri Bottas coming in third with Lewis Hamilton in front of him, and not very far in front of him. And then, of course, Sebastian Vettel pulling up the lead. That was a surprising win, but just didn't keep me on the edge of my seats. Now, the race was an interesting one. It was pretty much decided by a pit stop strategy, in my opinion. As well as, and it can be argued that it was also part of the setup. Midway through the race, or about a third of the way through the race, they pulled in, or Lewis Hamilton asked for a new set of tires, so he came in. Ferrari kept him instead of just coming in right after him for several laps, just to extend that stint of tires. And guess what happened? Lewis Hamilton came around, to complete his lap, and Valtteri Bottas, Sebastian Vettel had already done several. They timed it in a way so that Sebastian Vettel came out right in front of Max Verstappen, who was right in front of Lewis Hamilton, also due to a pit stop. It was interesting. And I thought right away, it's going to last a couple laps and Lewis will catch up. That car has a little bit better downforce. But what happened was exactly what a lot of the experts said was going to happen. The abundance of aerodynamic downforce caused the cars, I should say, following, to have reduced performance through the corners. So exactly what we thought was going to happen happened. We had cars that basically followed each other for the whole race. And gosh, it was boring. I'm sorry, guys, it was boring. And I don't know if it has anything to do with the fact that it was a street circuit technically, not an actual permanent racetrack, but part of it could be to the fact that they don't know anything about the cars really yet. They have minimal testing hours, so it might be set up. Who knows? But, one nice positive thing that I can say is at least it was a fight. At least Ferrari was out front. At least we have a different leader. Something new for a change. Now, I want to just take a minute to talk about Valtteri Bottas. I've always been a Valtteri Bottas fan, and a Mika Häkkinen fan. I don't know why. I've just always been drawn towards kind of the I'm Scandinavian myself, and I've always been drawn towards kind of the demeanor of do the talking on the field, so to speak, and be quiet. Don't be cocky, and I've always loved kind of that attitude, and for whatever reason been drawn towards those drivers. He's doing exactly what I thought he was going to do coming into Mercedes. He's filling that, second driver role, even though that's not technically in paper. And he's, coming in pretty strong out of the gate. Towards the end of the race, he was definitely closing in on Lewis. And I think purposely he kept a bit of a gap. I think he really didn't want to push it on the first race and make any stupid mistakes. My theory is that he wants to figure Lewis out a little better. If you look at some of Valtteri's past, he's a very analytical driver, and he's not overly aggressive. He makes moves once and makes them stick. And so what I think he's going to do for the next race or two is just kind of figure Lewis out, figure out where his weaknesses are, where he can improve on to kind of get that jugular, so to speak. And what's good about him versus Nico is I truly think he has better pace than Nico did. So if he can be as analytical as he is with the pace that he has, or that he's shown, I think that he's going to give Lewis a run for his money, and I think he'll be consistent, more consistent over a season. In fact, I actually put him in terms of a season to be right at Lewis, if not better at the end of the season in terms of overall podium percentages. Not points, but getting on podium, I think he's going to be more consistent. I think Lewis will be always have that extra tenth over anyone else. That's just how he is. He's always had something to pull out of the bag. But I think he will either make a mistake or will have a mechanical problem due to his more aggressive driving style. That's just my predictions. Now let's talk about Haas a little bit. You know, that one's painful. Having a little national pride in my home F1 team, watching them qualify, or watching Roman qualify 6th, and then both cars don't even finish the race. That was hard. That was definitely hard. You know, they looked like they had really good race pace for a while. And then on the other hand, Magnussen just almost looks like a GP2 driver. He has this kind of aggressive, super peaky, super... I guess you would say he's overdriving the cars, as the experts are saying. But more than that, he's too aggressive. It's like he's trying to prove that he should be in F1. And you know what? He's had years. He's had years to prove that he should be a driver on a team. And it just seems like he's gone from McLaren down to, you know, he just keeps dropping down the rungs. And I think that he won't be in F1 this time next year. So, besides that, I don't think anything else notable really happened. You know, McLaren's just being McLaren. They gotta sever that tie. They have just this little bloody stump of a left of an engine, and it's sad. It's sad to watch. You know, because they have a many-time world champion driving their car. Of course it's going to perform better than it is. But as he even said, it's a last place car right now with the power it has. And I truly don't think the chassis is as good as they say it is. I think it's a mid-tier car at best, with an equivalent power supply. You'll see Fernando Alonso at Ferrari next year, no problems whatsoever. Besides that, I don't think much happened. Antonio Giovinazzi. We'll say Giovinazzi, because that sounds better, and I don't want to mispronounce it. Anyway, he had a pretty good show for his first race. You know, when you can come into a car that you've never driven before and perform as consistently as he did, and as he said, you know, he was confused about the tires. He didn't know how hard to push, so he was being easy on them at the beginning of the race. I totally buy it. Pirelli has been putting out basically high degradation tires for years, so going into a car with all of a sudden where he can push almost every lap, that's probably a new thing he has to learn. I think in the history books in a year or two, you'll see the fact that Wehrlein made a big mistake. He should have toughed it out and done the race. You know, when you're at that level, getting paid that amount of money, you are the best driver, one of the best drivers in the world. So if you're not willing to, no pun intended, stick your neck out for your team and drive in pain, and you know, maybe this is from lack of experience. I truly don't know, but you know, sometimes you just gotta nut up or shut up, as they say. And I truly think he's gonna regret this at the end of his career, or maybe even this might be the showing of the end of his career, or premature exit. But anyway, I'm going to post a video tomorrow as well, giving kind of a prediction of free practice and who I think will be the kind of pace setters, who will be the average drivers, etc., etc. And then we will talk more about the exciting teams and some gossip that I've been reading about. So you guys have a good one. Take care.